My thumb hovered over the red send button on my phone. My chest was tight. My hands were shaking. It was 9 o'clock at night. I was sitting in my big Ford F-250 truck. The engine was running, humming softly, but the headlights were off. I was hiding in the shadows near the Miller house. The night was dark, and the world felt silent except for the faint sound of crickets. Through the windshield, I could see them. My parents. Thorin and Vespera. They were standing on the balcony, dressed fancy, holding tall, sparkling champagne glasses. They were laughing, their voices carrying across the lawn. The same lawn I had once mowed for free when I was a kid, the one I knew every blade of grass on. Their laughter made my chest ache because it reminded me of how small I felt around them, even now. My phone screen glowed in my hand. It said Project Oak Route, execute eviction. My other hand held the steering wheel so tight my knuckles had turned white. The truck smelled like a mix of soil, mulch, and diesel. Mud was caked on the floor mats. My boots had left deep prints on the pedals. I looked at the screen again. I whispered to the windshield, "I was going to save you." But then I remembered what they had said earlier. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? 12 hours ago, I pruned a Japanese maple in my greenhouse. My hands were dirty from working with soil, cutting and trimming branches and repotting succulents. The greenhouse was warm and humid. Condensation fogged the glass walls, and the smell of damp earth and growing plants filled the air. My phone rang. It was Vespera. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask how I was doing. Her voice was sharp, like the pruning shears in my hands. "Aisling," she said, "bring the juniper bonsai tonight." I paused, holding the phone between my shoulder and ear while I adjusted the scissors in my hand. I could hear the seriousness in her voice. I looked at the bonsai. 5 years of careful care, patience, and love. It has won competitions. It was worth $8,000. Its branches were twisted and perfect, each one like it had grown exactly where it was supposed to. The roots were strong, planted deep in rich soil. I had spent hours making sure it was beautiful. "The gala's tonight?" I asked quietly. "Obviously," Vespera said. 40 years of the Miller Art Gallery. We're expecting investors. Then the tone of her voice changed. Condescending. Cold. Patient. But in a way that made it feel like I was a child who didn't understand the world yet. "You owe us this much, Aisling. After everything." Her words landed in my chest like stones. I looked down at the bonsai again. I had poured myself into it. I had grown it from nothing. And now it was being demanded of me like it didn't mean anything. "It's not really good for a centerpiece," I said. "It needs special care. It could be damaged if it's in a room with too many people." "Don't be difficult," Vespera snapped. "We need to impress the Vanderbilts. Bring the tree. 6 o'clock. She hung up before I could answer. I should have said no. I should have laughed and gone back to work. But I didn't. I stood there in my greenhouse, surrounded by over 200 plants I had grown from seeds and cuttings. I was the owner of my own business. I made 6 figures last year. And yet I felt 14 again. 14. When I had given up my art scholarship so my brother Caleth could go to a private school. When Thorin patted me on the shoulder and said, "That's my girl. Family first." I had never gotten another scholarship. Caleth had gone to college and gotten his degree. The pattern was clear. I was always the helper. Never helped. But maybe this time would be different. Maybe if I brought the bonsai to their gala, they would finally see me. Really see me. I whispered to the empty greenhouse. Maybe this time they'll see me. Then I wrapped the bonsai in protective cloth and loaded it into the truck bed. The tree was heavy, 40 pounds of carefully nurtured branches, roots, and ceramic pot. My muscles ached, but I didn't mind. By 6:15, I was pulling up to the Miller estate. Not the main entrance with its circular driveway and fountain. Not the fancy front where everyone could see. I went to the service entrance around back where the caterers parked. Caleth was there, leaning against the brick wall in his expensive shoes, looking like he had stepped out of a magazine. He watched me park, then kicked some dirt off my front tire with the tip of his shiny Italian leather shoes. "Stay out of sight tonight," he said. "The adults are doing business." I was 27. He was 30. But in his eyes I was still a child. I wasn't an adult. I didn't argue. I started unloading the bonsai, 40 pounds of living wood, soil, and ceramic. I carried it alone while Caleth watched, hands in his pockets. I glanced toward the main entrance. The Vanderbilts were arriving early, stepping out of a black Mercedes. They were old money, looking down at desperate money. I could see it in the way they whispered to each other, the way their eyebrows lifted ever so slightly. Thorin greeted them too loudly, laughing too hard. His tuxedo was nice, but the cuffs were frayed. The family pride was already cracking, and Thorin didn't notice. Vespera appeared at the service door, while I carried the bonsai up the steps. She didn't offer to help. "You're late," she said. "And couldn't you wear something presentable?" I looked down at my work jeans and flannel shirt, covered in dirt from the greenhouse. I had come straight from a job site, hands still smelling like mulch. For a moment, I almost wavered. I almost considered going home to change into something she would like. Then I steadied myself. "I'm delivering a tree, Mother. Not attending your party." Her lips pressed into a thin line. But I didn't apologize. Small victory. I wasn't collapsing into the old pattern of people-pleasing. Thorin appeared in the doorway behind her. His eyes didn't see me. They went straight to the bonsai, like I was invisible. "This will do," he said, inspecting the branches. "The Vanderbilts appreciate Eastern aesthetics. Not Bramu." No acknowledgement that I had just given them an $8,000 centerpiece for free. Caliph followed us inside, smirking. "At least she's useful for something," he said. My hands trembled as I set the tree down on the main hall table. The realization cut sharp and clear. My family takes. They never give. They never give. Now, sitting in my truck in the darkness, I look at that phone screen again, my thumb still hovering over send. Through the windshield, Thorin raises his glass. Vespera laughs at something a guest said. They have no idea I'm out here. No idea what's coming. I press send. Another memory flashes back. 6:45. I am positioning the bonsai on the main hall table, adjusting the angle so the twisted trunk faces the entrance. My fingers brush the lowest branch, checking moisture levels out of habit. The ceramic pot leaves a ring of condensation on the polished mahogany. That's when I hear them. Thorin's voice carries from the private viewing room. The door is cracked open. A sharp whine of microphone feedback cuts through the air, then settles. They're testing the sound system. Slide 14. Perfect. I freeze, hands still touching the branch. The wood is smooth under my fingertips. The bark is worn soft from 5 years of careful training. Kalitha's voice answers, amplified by the speakers. Something in his tone makes my spine straighten. I should keep working. Should finish arranging the tree, and leave through the service entrance like I'm supposed to. Instead, I move closer. The hallway mirror catches my reflection as I approach. Flannel shirt, jeans with mud stains on the knees, hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. I look exactly like what I am. Someone who works with her hands. The slideshow clicks. Once. Twice. Through the crack in the door, I see the projection screen glowing bright in the dim room. Caliph stands there in a tailored suit, holding a crystal award. The photo caption reads, "The Visionary. Caliph Miller receives Architecture Excellence Award." Click. The next slide loads. It's me. Covered in pond muck, mud streaked across my face, kneeling beside a backyard pond, mid-laugh at something off camera. My work clothes are filthy. My hair is falling out of its tie. I remember when that photo was taken. Last spring, Henderson's backyard pond had clogged. I had spent 3 hours elbow-deep in algae and silt. Mrs. Henderson had laughed at something I said and snapped the picture. She had said I looked like I was having the time of my life. Thorin's voice breaks the silence. His presentation voice. Rehearsed, polished. "We'll tell the investors this is why we don't let children play in the dirt." A pause for effect. Caliph laughs. "Should we mention she charges people for this?" He's really enjoying himself now. Actual money for manual labor. They're laughing, practicing their timing, their rhythm, making sure the joke lands perfectly with the investors. My breath catches. The bonsai branch slips from my fingers. Thorin continues. The contrast is essential. Kalitha's sophistication versus whatever Aisling is doing with her life. The words hang in the air. Clinical. Precise. This isn't angry mockery. This is strategy. I'm not important. I'm a prop. A before and after picture. Proof for the investors. A cautionary tale. The Vanderbilts will see it. Newport's entire elite circle will see it. They'll all laugh at the mud-covered girl who thought she was worth something. I catch my reflection again. Same flannel shirt. Same work jeans. But the woman looking back is different. Sharp. Certain. Absolutely sure. I don't want their approval anymore. The realization isn't angry. Not yet. Just cold and clear. I'm not their daughter tonight. I'm their visual aid. I lift the bonsai off the table. 40 pounds. The weight is familiar in my arms. I carry it through the service corridor. The caterers are busy in the kitchen. Florists are arranging flowers in the side rooms. I push through the service entrance with my shoulder. A young caterer glances up. She's maybe 20. Her eyes move from my face to the bonsai. "Miss Miller, is everything all right?" she asks. My voice comes out calm, measured. The centerpiece won't work after all. She sees something in my expression, doesn't ask questions, just nods and goes back to work. Small moment, but it matters. Human decency versus family cruelty. The truck bed is exactly where I left it. I settle the bonsai carefully, wrap the protective blanket around the pot. My hands know this routine. I've transported this tree dozens of times. The engine starts on the first try. Through the windshield, I can see the main hall windows. The display table is empty now. Just a ring of water condensation where the tree stood. The dashboard clock reads 7:15. Guests arrive in 45 minutes. My phone buzzes. Vespera's name lights up the screen. I silence it. The tears come as I pull onto Ocean Avenue. My hands shake on the steering wheel. Adrenaline crashes through me now that I'm alone. But underneath the tears, something else is forming. Something harder than grief. Colder than anger. I didn't just take back a tree. I took back myself. By 7:45, I'm pulling into the gravel lot at Verdant Horizons. The commercial greenhouse glows amber in the dusk, interior lights reflecting off glass panels. My hands are still shaking on the steering wheel. I sit there, staring at the building I built from nothing. 2 acres of glass and steel. 3 full-time employees. Last year's revenue, $847,000. None of it matters right now. Through the windshield, I see movement. Bram and Linnea are still working late at the Pemberton estate. Bram is lifting and putting big, round river stones into the back of the company truck. The stones are heavy, and he moves slowly, making sure not to drop them. Linnea is rolling up the long, green irrigation hose, coiling it carefully so it doesn't tangle. Then, both of them see my truck pulling up. They stop what they're doing. Bram walks over first. He still has his work gloves on. He looks worried. His face, which has many lines from working under the sun for decades, shows concern. "Boss, what happened?" he asks, his voice low, almost afraid. I try to answer, but no words come out. I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. I feel like my throat is full of rocks. I can't say anything. Linnea comes to the passenger window. She has a bottle of water in her hand. She doesn't ask if she can give it to me. She just opens the door and hands it to me. She's younger than Bram, maybe 45, but she is calm and steady. She knows when to talk and when to just be there quietly. I take the water and breathe. It feels good in my hands. My voice finally works. "They were going to make fun of me," I say. "They were going to use me in a slideshow to make everyone laugh at me in front of the investors." The words feel small. They don't explain everything I heard when I was spying on them earlier. Thorin's voice, fake and full of jokes, the way Caliph laughed, the way Bram's jaw tightened when he realized what was coming. They all swirl in my head. Linnea puts her hand on my shoulder. It feels warm through my flannel shirt. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't ask questions. She just stays there with me. "Come inside," she says quietly. I follow them into the greenhouse. The air smells like wet dirt, plants, and fresh growth. Rows and rows of seedlings sit in trays, each one labeled in my handwriting. There are tiny green leaves sticking up, small sprouts full of life. This place is real. It belongs to me. Not the Miller Art Gallery, with its fancy walls, borrowed prestige, and unpaid debts. This is mine. My hands helped make it. My sweat, my care, my attention. We walk to the workbench area. I lean against the table, still holding the water bottle. My heart is racing, but in a steady way now. I feel alive. "I should call Corvin," I say. "If things go wrong tonight." "That's good," Bram says. He pulls up a small stool and gestures for me to sit. I shake my head. "I can't sit," I say. "There is too much adrenaline in me. My body is buzzing. I need to move, to think, to act." Then Bram does something I don't expect. He kneels down in front of me and starts unlacing my boots. "You don't have to," I say. He pulls a rag from his back pocket and wipes the heavy mud off my boots. He doesn't make them look new. He just knocks off the filth, the wet, sticky dirt that has been stuck to the leather all day. "Clean slate, boss." "Or close enough," he says. His words hit me somewhere deep inside. Thorin never cleaned anything for anyone. Thorin never knelt down to help. Thorin never showed care with his actions. Linnea's hand stays on my shoulder. They are both just waiting. They aren't asking for explanations. They aren't rushing me. They just stay present. The greenhouse door opens. Corvin Vera walks in, carrying his leather portfolio. He is still in his suit, straight from the courtroom. He is 53, my lawyer for 4 years. A sharp mind, a sharp instinct. Someone who sees the truth even when it is hidden. Talk to me, he says. So I do. I tell him everything. Vespera demanded the bonsai tree. The slideshow rehearsal. Thorin and Caliph laugh about using my photo as a joke. The empty centerpiece table I left behind. Corvin listens without interrupting. He doesn't try to fix anything as I speak. He just listens. That is what makes him so strong. He waits until I finish. Then he opens his portfolio and spreads papers across the workbench. Oak Root Holdings LLC, he says. Linnea leans closer, studying the papers. What's Project Oak Root? She asks. Corvin glances at me. I nod. 6 months ago, he explains, Thorin's bank threatened to take the Miller estate. They owed more than they could pay. Aisling bought the debt through a shell company you created. You own their debt. Bram whistles low. You own their debt? $125,000 in unpaid back rent, I say. My voice feels hollow, like I am saying it in a tunnel. I'm their landlord. They didn't even know. I add. Linnea's hand tightens on my shoulder. She is not judging me. She is supporting me. They weren't going to see you, Corvin says quietly but firmly. You were saving them. I start to explain why I did it, why I set up the shell company, why I wanted to control the debt to protect them, but I stop. The sentence doesn't need finishing. They were never going to see you, Aisling, Corvin says again. The truth hits me like a physical weight. He has been right all along. I just wasn't ready to hear it. My phone buzzes. Vespera. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I answer and put it on speaker. Where's the tree? She asks, her voice shrill. I say calmly. I took it home, Mother. Silence. Then the shouting begins. You selfish, ungrateful. Her words pour out like water from a broken faucet. Trash, insults, embarrassment, failure. Words she has probably thought for years, finally unleashed. Bram and Linnea stand perfectly still and watch. They don't interrupt. They don't act. They just witnessed. You've ruined everything, Vespera spits. Then she hangs up. The greenhouse goes quiet except for the hum of the ventilation systems. Corvin opens his laptop. I can email the eviction notice right now, he says. The legal document is ready. Professionally formatted. Legally airtight. 6 months of planning. 1 click and it is done. I shake my head. An email is too easy, I say. They want to humiliate me publicly? My voice hardens. Linnea speaks first. What do you need from us? Say the word, boss, Bram says. Corvin is already thinking tactically. The gala ends at 11. What's the plan? I ask. A process server, I say. Can you arrange one? He smiles. Actually, I know exactly the right person. The shift in the room is palpable. We're not grieving anymore. We're planning. We're thinking like a team. I stand up straight and wipe my face with the back of my hand. I look at the 3 of them. My lawyer. My foreman. My forewoman. My real family. Not people who share my blood, but people who share my burdens. They wanted me invisible, I say. They're about to see me very clearly. Linnea walks to the office closet and pulls out a simple black dress. You left this here last month, she says, holding it up. I take it and change right there in the greenhouse. No need for modesty. Linnea and Bram turn away out of habit. Corvin keeps working on his laptop, briefing someone on the phone. The dress fits well. Knee length. Simple. Professional. Unremarkable. Then I strap my boots back on under the hem. Corvin finishes his call. Process server will pose as a late arriving guest. Eviction notice is ready. I think about timing. During the keynote presentation. Maximum effect. That's smart, Bram says. I learned from the best, I reply. I look at Corvin. Just not from them. By 8:40, I am climbing back into the F-250 truck. The dress feels strange over my work clothes, but the boots feel right. Heavy, strong, steady. My phone screen glows. Project Oak Root. Execute eviction. Through the commercial district, I can see the Miller estate on the hill. The balcony where Thorin and Vespera are probably standing. Champagne glasses raised. They think they have won. Thorin's arm is around Vespera. They're laughing. They think I'm broken. I whisper to the windshield. I was going to save you. Then I remember Corvin's words. My thumb hovers over send. I press it. Process server dispatched. ETA 9:45 p.m. I start the engine. Diesel rumbles to life. Familiar. Powerful. I'm not driving back as a victim. I'm driving back as someone ready, prepared. 9:20. I walk through the main entrance of the Miller Art Gallery for the first time in my life. The black dress Linnea pulled from the office closet fits well. Simple, severe, professional. But underneath, my heavy work boots thud softly with each step. Nobody notices yet. Everyone is busy looking at the centerpiece table. Someone put a small crystal vase with white roses in the middle. Pathetic compared to the massive bonsai tree that should have been there. The water ring from the bonsai pot is still faintly visible. The room is packed. Investors in dark suits cluster near the bar. The Vanderbilts sit in the corner, watching. Old money, old judgment. Vespera sees me first. Her face changes fast. Shock. Rage. Then smooths into a mask of calm. She crosses the room in seconds. Heels click like gunshots. How dare you show your face, she says, low and venomous. I meet her eyes. Her perfume is strong, cloying. Her hand clamps my arm hard. You embarrassed us. That centerpiece cost us credibility. I don't pull away. Did I? Or did you embarrass yourselves? I ask. Across the room, the Vanderbilt matriarch watches silently, paying attention. Vespera's grip tightens. Then Thorin sees me. He freezes. Champagne halfway to his lips. His eyes find Caliph at the podium. Something passes between them, silent, but clear. Thorin moves quickly to Caliph and whispers. Caliph smiles, all teeth. They are not waiting for the keynote anymore. They want to punish me now. Crush me before I can explain. Caliph goes to the microphone. Some of us build legacies, he says, pointing to his award photo. Then my photo appears. Me, covered in pond muck, kneeling in wet soil, laughing at Bram. Hair plastered, hands black with dirt. Joyful, unaware. The room laughs. At first uncertain, then more confidently. They understand the joke. Caliph leans into the microphone. Some just dig holes. The laughter grows. They understand. Thorin goes to the microphone. This is what happens when you reject education. I stand in the center of the room. Spotlight finds me. Every face turns toward me. I feel the weight of their judgment. I bow my head slowly. Shoulders slump. Hands clasped. I look exactly how they want. Broken. Defeated. Thorin and Vespera glance at each other. Triumph in their eyes. Caliph smirks at the podium. At the bar, I see them clink champagne glasses, thinking they've won. Thorin leaned close to her, whispering words that were meant to sting. I could hear every single one. He wanted her to remember who was in charge. He wanted her to understand her place. Vespera, sipping her drink carefully, left a red mark of her lipstick on the rim of the glass. She probably thought now she could see what real success looked like. She thought she could feel power, see power, taste power. They were drunk on it. Not drunk like too much wine makes you laugh or stumble, but drunk on the way people look at them and nod, drunk on the way they think everyone is beneath them. They thought they had me right where they wanted me, back in the box they had put me in years ago. Their guard was completely down. Nobody was careful anymore. Near the Vanderbilt table, an older woman, wearing pearls and a dress that looked like it came from another time, frowned at the screen. She leaned toward her companion, whispering softly, almost sneaky, like she didn't realize that whispers travel fast in a room full of ears. It seemed mean. It seemed small. But the Vanderbilt matriarch didn't move her face. It stayed perfectly still, perfectly calm, like a stone statue. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She didn't say a single word. But even in her silence, she spoke volumes. If you knew how to read people, you would understand. But Thorin didn't notice. Thorin never notices. He was too busy looking at me, imagining that my head bowed and my shoulders slumped meant I was defeated. His arrogance blinded him to the way the room was changing. The mood was shifting like the tide. You could feel it in the air, a subtle tension spreading. People were starting to notice something was wrong, something unexpected. I kept my head down, playing the part they expected. I let my shoulders slump a little more. I made my gaze small, quiet, almost invisible. But I was watching everything. I checked my watch. 9:43. The night was still young, but everything was falling into place exactly as it should. I slowly lifted my head and scanned the room. My eyes found Corvin near the entrance. He blended in with the crowd, wearing a dark suit like anyone else. His movement was calm, careful, but deliberate. We caught each other's eyes. A small nod from me. A small nod back from him. That tiny, quiet exchange was enough. It was the signal. The door opened behind him. A man in a dark suit entered. Not a guest who wandered in late, not someone lost in the crowd. He moved with purpose. Every step was precise, every movement deliberate. He didn't look around. He didn't hesitate. He walked straight toward the stage. I let my face settle into calm, let something cold and final move behind my eyes. Thorin didn't notice. Thorin never notices. Thorin returned to the podium, smiling at the crowd, a smile so practiced it could have been carved from marble. He took the microphone from Caliph and began talking. Now about our investment opportunity. His voice was smooth, confident, sure of himself. The stage lights caught the silver threading in his tuxedo, making him look untouchable. He smiled that smile I had seen 1,000 times. The one that said he had already won. The man in the dark suit kept walking toward the stage, quiet and steady. My scuffed boots stayed planted on the marble floor. I didn't move. I just watched. Thorin's voice filled the room. The Miller family, he said, smooth like aged whiskey, represents 3 generations of refined taste. I stayed standing in the middle of the room, head down, shoulders slumped, playing the part of the defeated, small, powerless girl. But I was watching. Always waiting. The man in the dark suit entered and walked with a calm determination. His suit was nice but normal. He could have been anyone. That was the point. Caliph was the first to notice him. I saw my brother frown across the room, the tiniest tilt of his head. He didn't recognize the man. Thorin didn't recognize him either. The server walked down the center aisle. His shoes were quiet, barely making a sound on the polished marble. His walk was steady, calm, unyielding. Thorin stopped mid-sentence and looked up. Annoyed. "Excuse me," Thorin said into the microphone. "This is a private event." The man didn't stop. He didn't acknowledge Thorin. He just kept walking. Steady, slow, unstoppable. Thorin's voice started to shake with irritation. "Sir, you need to leave," he barked. The room went silent. Conversations faded away like candles being blown out. Every head turned toward the stage. Every pair of eyes watched. The server climbed the stage steps, one by one, quiet and steady. Thorin's face turned red. "Get the hell off my stage, you peasant," he shouted. Gasps went through the crowd like a ripple across water. The Vanderbilts looked at each other. That careful, controlled expression of theirs shifted slightly. Just slightly, but enough to see. The first crack in Thorin's perfectly polished world. But he didn't notice. He was too focused on this perceived threat to his authority. "Do you know who I am?" Thorin shouted, leaning closer to the microphone. "This is my gallery. My event." His voice filled the room, sharp and full of anger. The server stopped 3 feet from Thorin. His voice was calm, professional, but close enough for the microphone to catch every word. "I know exactly who you are, Mr. Miller," he said. He reached into his jacket. Thorin flinched. But what came out was not a weapon, not a threat, but a simple cream-colored envelope with an official seal. "I am representing Outsmarted Holdings. You are being served with an eviction notice," the man said. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. "For $125,000 in unpaid back rent. $125,000. 6 figures. The kind of number that destroys reputations, that makes people whisper behind your back." Behind Thorin, my photo from the slideshow was still projected on the screen. The one with mud all over me. Aisling, laughing in the pond muck. But now the meaning has changed completely. The mud girl was no longer the person to be laughed at. She was the one holding power. She was the one with the upper hand. Thorin's face was drained of color. Anger melted into confusion, and confusion into fear. The Vanderbilts got up, both of them, moving in perfect synchrony. They put their napkins on the table carefully, deliberately, like soldiers marching. Then they walked toward the exit without a word. Not running, not panicked, just moving carefully to avoid being associated with a scandal. Other investors followed. "This is a misunderstanding," Thorin stammered into the microphone. His voice, so confident a moment ago, was now shaky and weak. The server's voice cut through his protests like a knife. "Your lease is terminated immediately due to chronic non-payment. You have 48 hours to remove all personal belongings." Vespera's heels clicked across the marble floor as she rushed toward the stage. Her dress swished around her legs. "Who owns Outsmarted?" she demanded. The server's hand was still holding the envelope. "Legal ownership transferred to Outsmarted Holdings 6 months ago. All correspondence regarding this debt was sent to your attorney of record." Thorin grabbed for the papers. His hands shook violently, crumpling the envelope slightly. He stared at the documents like they were written in a language he didn't understand. I started walking toward the stage. Not running, just walking. Calm, steady, deliberate. The crowd parted like the sea before me. Their expressions changed. No one was laughing at the mud girl anymore. They were seeing someone else entirely. I reached the base of the stage. Thorin's eyes met mine. I held his gaze for 3 long, heavy seconds. No words. No apology. No explanation. I let him see everything he had missed. Everything he had ignored. Everything he had dismissed. Then I turned on my heel. My black dress swirled around my legs. For a moment, my scuffed boots were visible. Boots I had worn on purpose. Boots I never apologized for. Corvin fell beside me as we walked toward the exit. His hand touched my back briefly. Steady. Supportive. At the door, I paused and turned to face the room one last time. The investors were frozen. Thorin had collapsed into a chair. Caleth stood beside him, lost and confused. Vespera's mouth hung open in a scream. My voice carried across the room without a microphone. The lease was always clear. I'm not your daughter right now. I am your landlord. Then I walked out. Behind me, Vespera screamed. Their world had crumbled, and everyone could see it. The polished marble floor looked like it had broken glass scattered across it, the ruins of their pride and ego. Outside, I didn't look back. The next morning at 9 o'clock, Vespera's Mercedes pulled up to Verdant Horizons. She wore flats, not her Louboutins from last night. She still tried to look powerful, but the armor was gone. I stayed inside the greenhouse, my hands deep in potting soil, repotting a Japanese maple. I didn't need to focus on the car. I didn't need to focus on Vespera. I had something real in front of me, something I could shape and nurture. Bram intercepted her at the entrance. The boss isn't taking visitors, he said flatly, professionally. I need to speak with my daughter. Vespera cried. Her voice cracked. Her makeup was smudged. Her dress was wrinkled from yesterday. I didn't look up. I kept examining the branch in my hand. Family doesn't humiliate family, I thought silently. The pruning shears made a clean snip. One branch fell, then another. Patience and discipline. She stepped closer. Bram shifted to block her. Caleth said nothing. How can you do this to us? Vespera demanded. Snip. Another branch fell. I shaped the maple carefully. I had heard this song before, the guilt, the manipulation, the expectation that I owed them something because of my last name. I set down the shears, wiped my hands on a rag, and pulled a business card from my back pocket. I walked to the door and handed it to Vespera. Bankruptcy attorney. Local. Good reputation. The lease was clear. Payment terms were generous. 6 months of missed payments. We thought you'd understand. I'm not your daughter right now. Her hand trembled holding the card. I added, and you are trespassing. She turned and left without another word. 3 months later, I stood on the balcony watching the workers take down the Miller Art Gallery sign. The metal scraped against the brick. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No bitterness. Just the morning sun warm on my shoulders. The weight of the building beneath my boots. Verdant Horizons headquarters. My building. Our building. Linnea read the new sign as workers lifted it into place. Never thought we'd have offices with a view, she said. Bram brought me coffee. He passed it without asking, because he knew I wanted it. The $8,000 bonsai in the window looked perfect. I glanced at the juniper in the main office. Backlit by the rising sun, every needle shone. 5 years of work. Finally on display. Finally where people could see it. Corvin arrived with his leather portfolio. Thorin and Vespera had signed the settlement that morning. Caleth had moved to Boston. No forwarding address. I nodded. Their departure didn't hit me hard. They were gone. I was still here. The office walls were now full of photographs. Landscapes I had designed. Happy clients standing in their gardens. No family photos. The mud crew, Corvin, people who chose me. That was enough family. Business was thriving. 3 new commercial contracts signed last week. After Corvin left and the crew returned to work, I stood alone on the balcony at sunset. My boots were still dusty from the morning site visit. Honest dirt. I remembered Thorin's joke. Just dig holes. I smiled without bitterness. Those holes became gardens. That mud built this. The bonsai caught the last light of the sun. Its shadow stretched across my shoulders like wings spreading. Dark. Certain. I whispered. I reclaimed my garden. My phone buzzed. A new client inquiry. I answered immediately. Verdant Horizons. Aisling Miller speaking. My name. No apology. No shame. Just mine. The building gleamed in the twilight around me. The same balcony where they had stood, laughing at the mud girl. Now it was mine. Openly. Legally. Completely.